So let us, if God did it, then let us microscopically examine this personage. The name Jabez means sorrow. Verse 9 says his mother named him Jabez, which means sorrow. The name also means grief. The name also means with contortion, as in the response of the body due to being undergoing excruciating pain. Or the name means a body in agonizing pain to contortion. Why, my brothers and sisters, would God choose to give a special space, a special mention to a man whose name means grief, whose name means sorrow? His name means contortion in excruciating pain. My brothers and my sisters, we hear about Jabez today in another light. We hear about Jabez concerning the prayer that he prayed. We hear about the hip side of Jabez. We hear about Jabez from the perspective of his request that his coast be enlarged. We hear about Jabez from the perspective of him saying, fulfill my wish, and God saying it's granted. That's the 10th verse. And that's found in verse number 10. But I want to spend a few moments with verse number 9. For if there was no verse 9 in our lives, there could be no verse 10 in our lives, because before there can be a verse 10 in our lives, there must be a verse 9 in our lives, and verse 9 always precedes verse 10 in our lives. Churches today want growth. To get that growth, churches today feel it necessary to preach happy messages with joy. Messages about wealth, messages about health, messages about deliverance. Why? Because such messages on average are what it takes to attract the crowd, which is what churches are after today, which there's nothing wrong with. But that's not the case with God. God sends the message that we need. The message of God, if preached, will not necessarily fill churches today. Most messages preached today are feel-good messages, cosmetic messages. The messages preached today are about flowery beds of ease. The messages preached today are about what Isaiah calls smooth things that tickles people's ears. Isaiah chapter 30 verse 9 says it's the people that's asking for it, and the preachers are delivering it. The people are saying, we'll come if you preach smooth things that tickle us. As a matter of fact, they say, see not. To the prophet, they say, prophesy not unto us right things. They say, preach unto us smooth things. Prophesy deceits, as long as it makes us smile. Smooth things, deceitful things, like the check is in the mail. That's what we want to hear. You don't have to work to get it. Just wait, and it's coming. Smooth things like shout 30 times in 30 minutes, and you'll get a $30,000 blessing. Designed to get you feeling good. These are not the messages that God is sending to the church today. The most probable message from God today is Jabez. Sorrow. How do I know? Because he said all who will live godly in Christ Jesus shall be Jabez, shall suffer persecution. There's going to be sorrow, which according to verse number 9 is what Jabez means. The message from God today is Jabez. If you're here, God's going to Jabez you. Look at somebody, say he's going to Jabez you. The message from God is Jabez, contortions. Think, Jesus said. I'm going to give you a different perspective of him. Think that I'm come to bring peace. No, not peace. I've come to bring Jabez. I come to bring a sword. No, Jesus said. He said, I am come. If you think I've come with a smooth message, I've come to set at variance a man against his father. Jesus is saying that. I've come to set a daughter against her mother, a Jabez. I've come to bring tear-jerking pain. I've come to bring contortion, pain that causes the body to contort with pain. The message from God today is Jabez. And my brothers and sisters, if you can handle being Jabez, then you can reap a name. If you can handle being Jabez, then you can harvest a testimony from God, which is a name of note by God. A name that God will make stand out when men speak genealogically about your heritage and get to your name. They got to pause because you have been Jabez by God. My brothers and sisters, if you want your name to be remembered by God more than men, if you want your name, how many want their name to be remembered? If you want your name to be remembered by God more than men, the Bible said, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptation. For with God, if you want to have fame, you must first stand in the time that there is pain. Stand through the times when you are being Jabez. Stand through the times in your walk with God when you're going through something. For with the pattern with God is pain always precedes fame. Somebody look at somebody and say, pain always precedes fame. And let's try this. Fame is pain's reward. Fame is pain's reward. Every time you find yourself suffering because you took a stand, remember, pain precedes fame. Every time you take a stand for Jesus against the trilogy of the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, the pride of life, coupled with the cares of this world, the sensuousness of this world, and you take a stand, remember, pain precedes fame. Every time you have to separate yourself from those so-called Christians who are infected and infested with unchristlike personality and have to risk ridicule because you've taken your stance. Remember, pain precedes fame.